can't believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see, we've been volleyball'd oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball.
Chapter 19. This is Volleyball'd, and we are the Medinas. I'm Carlos,
And I'm Allison.
and we're ready to talk about it.
We're tired. That's what we are. We're tired.
It's been a very tough last 72, 96 hours. But before we, I think we should name it. I don't know if we should call it Trapped Weekend or Caught in Horrendous Weather Weekend.
Travel apocalypse.
Qualifier mania. All things traveling don't go well.
If you were in the Midwest this weekend, you have a story, probably, about getting home.
So we're going to talk about what went on. For those of you that have been trying to explain to your friends and your family why you were not home in time, or how you missed a birthday, or you had to explain to your boss what happened this weekend. But before we get into that, we talked about how 3 years ago we had what we thought was our worst travel experience, and now it doesn't even rank. We were at AAU's. My oldest daughter was 12. They had finished third, so they got a chance to meet Mickey Mouse back when they were doing that at Disney Wide World of Sports. And Allison and I are high-fiving our way back to the airport, and what a weekend. And you got medals, and you're walking through the Orlando airport, and everything's
by the
cool.
way, best thing in the world is walking through an airport wearing a giant medal. There's nothing better. We taught our 11-year-old that this weekend. You wear it proudly, honey, because look at all the other volleyball girls who don't have a medal on. It's something to be proud of.
And let's be clear, qualifier medal. When you're at a qualifier and you've medaled, and we'll talk about some of the craziness of how we've now had a second place finish and a third place finish, and yet still no bid, because that's how 11 National works.
But her bronze medal this weekend has a giant moose on it, which is actually pretty freaking cool.
So going back to 3 years ago, we're walking through the Orlando airport. It's the bronze medal at AAU Nationals. We're having a great time. We decide to go grab some food, and at this point it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we have a 6:30 flight. And then we get a notification on our phones. Your flight has been delayed to 7 o'clock. No big deal. What's the problem with that?
Order another margarita.
Hey, sounds great. Then we get the notification. It's 8:15. Now, let me paint this picture for you. It's bright sunshine in Orlando. What we're hearing is that the plane coming from somewhere else is having a lot of problems. I don't remember all of the string of stuff. Do you remember how long this went on for? Because it went on for about 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, we were in the airport at least 7 hours, and it was delay after delay, and then we're changing gates, and we're changing planes, and then we finally get ready to get on the next plane, and the crew times out, and then they find a new crew, and then they get us on the international flight. If I recall, there was 8 seats across,
it was a
massive plane.
The issue we had was that I believe we were required by law to have 8 crew members, but because of the size of the plane, for some reason, they needed one more person, and they couldn't get someone. So we left.
Do you remember the announcement? It was, we need a couple more crew members, and there's no one available in the Orlando airport, so we're just waiting for the next flight to get here from Atlanta. It will be taking off in 20 minutes. So you're in Orlando hearing that the flight bringing the crew that's going to get you home has not even left Atlanta yet, and we're trying to get back to Atlanta. So it's a minimum 3 hours before you're getting on the next flight.
So by the time this all comes to a head, I've been asleep on the floor of the Orlando airport, and when we get the announcement, hey, it's time to board, they have enough crew members, I believe it was 3:45 in the morning. Now, for those of you who have made the trip to Sunshine and did the qualifier there, or AAU Nationals, you're starting to think in your mind, how far would it be and how long would it be to drive? And for us, from our front door to the convention center is a little under 7 hours. We had gotten there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't fly out until nearly 4 o'clock in the morning. And we thought that was the worst situation we had ever when it came to travel in volleyball.
Oh, no, we've topped that.
So do you want to start with your end or my end? Because I think that to tell this story correctly, we should go back and forth. Because I was in St. Louis with the 16-year-old team. You were
At MEQ.
At MEQ. You were at Northern Lights. It's split up into 2 weekends. So you had the younger girl weekend.
Right. I had the 11 national weekend.
And you and I start chatting back and forth through text message Sunday afternoon as we've been eliminated. Your team, your girls are still going. They're getting into the quarterfinal. They're getting ready for a semifinal. They're still playing. But now you and I are texting back and forth about how we hear bad weather is not only coming to our area, but we're dealing with it if we start heading south to Atlanta as well.
Well, let me back up a couple days before that. I'm on a work trip in San Diego where it is 80 degrees, blue skies, not a cloud in the sky. I'm looking at ocean waves with a slight gentle breeze in my hair. I mean, it is gorgeous weather on Friday as I'm boarding my flight to Minneapolis, where upon arrival in Minneapolis, it is already well into the 30-degree temperatures with bad weather coming. And beginning around Saturday at 10, 11 o'clock-ish, the sky just starts dumping snow onto the ground. And I'm talking the kind of snow where if you actually looked at the winter weather warnings on your weather app, it said possibility of thunder snow. I don't know if you've heard that term before. Thunder snow.
Never had I heard that until you told me on Saturday. We're expecting thunder snow.
Me either. Had to Google it. Thunder snow is a thing. It's not made up at all. And it went from 10 a.m. it said winter storm warning to about 3 p.m. it said blizzard warning. Blizzard conditions likely. Now, I live in Atlanta. For those of you who live in this part of the country, we don't do blizzard warnings. So I'm preparing for like the world's going to end, the sky's going to fall, everything's going bad. But then it kind of does. Like the sky falls and the sky is just dumping white stuff on the ground nonstop in every direction from the time we wake up until we're done playing. And, you know, Minneapolis is organized as a cold city should. Going from your hotel to the convention center, it's all indoor skywalks, but they're clear and you can see. And we just watched throughout the day as we went back and forth. More snow fell and more snow fell. And there's these little like Bobcat tractors that go by every 30 minutes to an hour in the downtown area. And they just scoop up the snow and dump it onto the sidewalk. So by the end of the day, you've got these piles like 3 feet high of snow along the sidewalk, all along the major areas. And we're thinking, you know, we're from Atlanta. In Atlanta, we're not moving for the next 3 weeks if this happens, right? Oh, no. The city bus is running, which is insane to me. There's people walking outside in their ginormous North Face parkas. It's crazy. They just keep functioning when it snows like this.
So I talk with you, and you've given me the update. But at this point, because it's Minnesota, it's Minneapolis, we don't look at it as a threat in terms of travel. Like, not as of yet. We haven't heard that anyone's going to have a problem. We have the same situation going on in St. Louis, but we're catching the other end of this massive storm. And so by the time it's bright sunshine, it was great weather, we walked around the Clayton area, which is a really cool area, by the way. We would walk to dinner. We would walk to different establishments, different bars, and it was great weather. Perfect. Now on our weather app, it's telling us there is a band of tornadoes and thunderstorms headed your way Sunday. And so that is kind of the point where I'm reaching out to you. You're saying, well, there's a lot of snow. I'm telling you, we've got like giant, crazy Midwest tornado alley weather headed our way.
Yeah, it was weird. It's real weird, guys.
So,
So Saturday night, well, let me back up for a second. Before we're even thinking about getting home on Sunday, Saturday night, we were AM Wave. We cancel our plans for the team to go out for dinner, obviously, because there's a ton of snow on the ground and, probably half the team had coats and half didn't. Bring food in for the girls. They eat in the lobby. We get them all fed. We get them up to the rooms. They're watching movies together, having a good time. I'm at the bar with my dad, who came in town with me, and a couple other parents. And one of the moms on our team comes up and says, "Hey, we're going next door." And I was like, "Oh, okay. What's happening next door?
What is next door?
What's happening next door in Minneapolis that's so, in the snowstorm that's so fantastic?" She's like, "There's a drag show at the cabaret next door at 7 p.m. and I got us a table right up front." And I take a beat because I'm like, wait a minute. Let me put all this together.
Is this a trap? Are you testing me?
I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and there's a cabaret next door with a 7 p.m. drag show that you would like us to go to. Okay. And the next comment out of me and the other mom sitting next to me was, "Yeah, okay, we'll do it. We're down. Let's go."
So I'm getting the pictures from that as I'm now sitting with our coach of our team and a bunch of parents, and we're chatting about where we're going to do dinner. And at this point, I start getting text messages from my wife for the early show and videos to go along with it to prove, yes, this is indeed where we're at.
I met Reba. I met Cher. I met the lady who sings Pink Pony Club. I mean, it was freaking phenomenal. And it ended at 8 p.m., which is pretty much the ideal 45-year-old mom's night out.
Which was a little different for us. So we had the scenario on Saturday. We end up losing our opening match. By the way, we're the 4th seed in the second group on Saturday. And we had actually played very well on Friday. We had played the 13 seed. I think we came in as like the 40th out of like 120. And we get beaten in the third set by the 13 seed. So we basically stick with the 40 seed. We then play in our group the second overall seed. We lose to that team. We then beat the 1 seed that's like the 11th overall seed in the tournament. So we're like, we're rolling. And then we lose our final match in the third set when we were up 13-11, and all we needed was 2 points. And so by the time we found that 11th floor bar, there was a lot of sad drinking going on. And now your images and the stuff you're sending, I'm like, that's a team that's having a lot more fun than we are right now. But little did we know we would all end up in the same horrible place.
I mean, let me tell you, like, I've not been 20 years old in a long time, okay? But we felt 20 years old for just a little bit. There was a bachelorette party in the corner, and they sent us a round of shots.
Nice.
Which, by the way, I don't do shots. But it was so delicious that I sipped on it for, like, the entirety of the hour. But it was great because among us on the table, we had a coach, we had a lawyer, we had a pilot, we had like this power group of women who have just the sole thread of commonality that our daughters all are on the same volleyball team. And so the MC and hostess was calling us the volleyball moms and made a horrific joke at the beginning that got the whole room dying laughing, that obviously we were the volleyball moms, so we're also really good at handling balls, much like her. It was a time. It was great. So for those of you traveling to the second weekend of Northern Lights this weekend, just know Roxy's Cabaret is a blast.
I'm just going to make this a quick notation. If when it comes to this podcast, you happen to be listening in Carline, know that was Allison Medina and not Carlos Medina that said anything that you would ever.
I kept it G-rated.
You would have to turn down your sound system
It's
for
totally
a moment.
fine.
All right, so let's get to now the misery. So Sunday rolls around, and now the 11-year-old team that is in Minneapolis gets beat in the semifinal. A very good One United team, so congratulations to them. 3 sets. It was amazing.
Intense.
I was watching it on YouTube. It was a great match. We end up playing ours, and we're done. And at that point, it's time to get out of town. We are having lunch at like 3:30 in the afternoon. We have about half our team that is on the 7:40 flight out of St. Louis when we start getting text messages, your flight is canceled.
That's right. Yours was first. I remember.
Mine was first. We're canceled. Now, this was the point where we then decide, well, there's only really one option. We've got to go to the airport and see how this is going to play out. We got up to the counter, and we typically, out of Atlanta, we fly Delta. In this case, we were flying Southwest just because of the scheduling of the flights. And the counter lady, who was a very nice lady, flat out told me, what you need to do right now is schedule however you can get out of here tomorrow and go get a hotel room right now, because anyone who is Chicago West is going to be dropped in St. Louis, and they will not be getting out for the night. And so that was now the emergency moment for us of, we're going to be here. Let's try and make the best of it. And now it turns to, as I'm getting to the hotel, contacting you to find out, are y'all going to get out of Minneapolis?
Well, at the time, we thought the answer was yes. So we get to the airport because we got an alert that our 6:12 flight was actually going to leave early at 5:50. So we all hustle after the 2:30 match is over to try to get all of our bags at the airport and share Ubers and get over. By the way, as an Atlantan, I'm thinking I'm going to die on the way to the airport because I've never driven on a highway with 18 inches of snow on the ground. But they're seasoned professionals over there, and there was nothing on the roads on the highway. The side streets were a little wonky, but the highway was clear. Anyway, we get to the airport, plenty of time, check in, end up getting to the gate. There's a restaurant right next door to the gate. We sit down, have a drink, have some food. We're chill. We're good. We're going to take off on time. Everybody's happy. Well, 6:12, like I said, was the time, but they had told us we were leaving at 5:50. At about 4:45-ish, we get the delay that the flight will probably be boarding closer to 7 p.m. So we're like, all right, fine. There's snow. We expected delays. At 7 p.m., they begin boarding, and about half the flight gets on, and it's actually my father, myself, and my daughter who are next in line to board. And my dad goes to put his phone up on the thing, and the gentleman 2 feet away from him goes on the announcement saying, ladies and gentlemen, we've just learned that air traffic control in Atlanta has grounded all incoming flights due to overcrowdedness or something like that at the Atlanta airport.
So let me pick it up from there. We end up getting the word from anyone who's trying to fly to Atlanta that there is a large delay because the similar situation was going on that we were dealing with in the Midwest, except in Atlanta, it was high winds. So they were dealing with 50-mile-an-hour winds, and so at that point, it was too dangerous for them to try and operate the busiest airport in all of America. So,
World.
Yeah, so it then turned into, all right, we've got to either keep people in the air longer, or the ones we can divert to somewhere else, we're going to divert to somewhere else. So we were getting those updates as well, because even though our round of flights for Southwest had all been shut down, there were 2 Delta flights that were trying to get out. And as we were told by the people that were working there, they're going to try and get out, but understand because of the storm, they're going to fly an hour and a half north before they come south to go around the weather. So it was crazy to know at least those teammates of ours who did get out on Sunday, they walked in the door of their homes after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning because of having to divert basically up to the Chicago area from St. Louis and then come down in kind of like a giant U-shape pattern, half a U.
The flight paths are ridiculous. If you look at the flight paths on Sunday of how planes went from point A to point B anywhere in this area of the country, they basically were making giant bows like all over the country. So anyway, they deplane our plane for the first time. We never got on the first time, but half of the plane did. They deplane the plane. We're sitting there just waiting for the next announcement because we don't know what the delay looks like. They actually said when they did it that it could be up to 6 hours, and we wouldn't know until Atlanta got back to us.
They weren't that far off.
Well, at the time we didn't know it, but so fast forward about an hour later, and they come back on and say, okay, Atlanta's allowing planes to land again. We're going to begin the boarding process in about 30 minutes. So we, all kind of gather our stuff. And in 30 minutes, they do board the plane again. We all get on the flight. We get on the plane and we're kind of waiting for a while. We start our movies and whatnot. And then all of a sudden they say, well, I don't want to call it bad news, but the latest news on this flight is that we have discovered a mechanical issue with the plane and we're just going to have a crew come out and take a look at it. So
this would have been the moment where I say, I'm done. I'm getting off the plane. This flight is never going anywhere. And the moment you say we have a mechanical issue, I'm turning into that lady who's screaming at the top of my lungs, that person isn't real. I'm like, I'm doing anything to get off the flight.
Well, we don't know what the mechanical issue was, but 45 minutes
later.
later.
I know, broken plane.
45 minutes later, they come back and they say, okay, mechanical issue is fixed. We are cleared for departure. So please fasten your seatbelts and stay in your seats and lower your armrests and blah, 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 blah. So we back out from the gate. We get out on the tarmac. We wait about another 20 minutes. They push us a little more forward on the tarmac. They start the de-icing process. Granted, this is about an hour to an hour and a half after we first boarded the plane because of all of the delays. We're out getting de-iced. We can see them spraying down the wings, spraying everything down. But then we wait about another 10 minutes and nothing happens. Pilot comes on again. Well, folks, turns out we've discovered or uncovered another mechanical issue with the plane during the de-icing process. We're going to have to go back to the gate and deplane again.
So while you're dealing with that, I am now back over in St. Louis. We have reached our hotel that we're at, right across basically the highway from the airport. And we're getting into the rooms, and I can hear this noise that is very distinct to me. As somebody who grew up in Texas, grew up in Tornado Alley, I know exactly what that siren is. Now, my 15-year-old daughter does not like big weather.
No.
She fears it, and that's probably our own fault from taking her to Florida and showing her hurricane damage when she was 9 years old. It never left her mind.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Yeah, that kind of messed her up. So parenting fault on us. So she starts asking me, she goes, what's that noise? I know what that noise is. That is a tornado siren. But I just tell her, I don't know. I don't think it's any big deal. And in my mind, I'm going, that tornado siren has been going off for at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And now here's the issue. Now some of the other parents have discovered it as well. They're coming out of their hotel rooms. Like I said, we've been in the hotel room for a minute. Is that the tornado siren? We got to go downstairs. So now there's this panic, mostly from my 15-year-old, who's ready to get down to a basement, which, by the way, didn't exist in that hotel. And I just keep having to tell her, everything's fine, we're going downstairs. But sure enough, as you're dealing with your end of your mechanical issues, I'm dealing with there are tornadoes in the area. That's the reason why nobody is taking off.
And my husband is like, do not get back on that same plane. You make sure they get you a new plane. 2 mechanical issues is 2 mechanical issues too many, which he's not wrong.
Now, before you finish up your end of what happens on your plane, because the question is always going to be asked, what about y'all getting a car? Because it's about 9 hours from St. Louis to our area of Atlanta. We tried desperately. We were contacting everyone in the area, trying to find a one-way, every single car company that you've ever heard of that does rentals. They were all gone. In part because the people who had been eliminated earlier in the morning of the tournament, if their flights had already been canceled, they took all the cars. So suddenly we're just stuck. And that's how we ended up basically being in the hotel overnight and having really no options other than let's see if we can find another flight the next day on Monday.
So we're deboarding the plane for the second time. And on the way out, the flight attendants are kind of just, I'm so sorry, guys. So sorry. So sorry. And I look over at one of them and I just say, is the flight canceled? And she's like, no, we just got to kind of reassess once we get back out there. So we get off the plane, wait for another hour, no updates from anyone. Now, at this point, we had about 8 girls on our team on this flight. At this point, 2 of the families bail. They're like, We're getting a hotel room. We're going to take a flight tomorrow. I'm done with this. It's 10:30 at night. We're not doing this anymore.
By the way, this is what I have suggested already to my wife after now the second time where I pushed the, why don't you just go get a hotel room? But at this point,
here's why.
You were pot committed.
No, well, here's why you're pot committed. If you just went on the Delta app and looked for a flight, it was saying there wasn't anything until Wednesday afternoon. This was Sunday night. I wasn't staying in Minnesota till Wednesday afternoon. So I was going to wait and see out that night. So we're waiting. It's 10:30. It's 11. It's 11:30. It's 11:45. No updates from the crew. And then all of a sudden, as we're just under midnight, like right up, butt up against midnight, the guy gets on the microphone.
Who's the guy?
He's the gate agent
who's
been there all night giving us these terrible updates. And he gets up there and he says, ladies and gentlemen, the flight is canceled. And the flight is canceled because the pilot got pissed off and left. And there's no other pilots in the vicinity who can fly the plane. So the bad news about that is the flight is canceled. The good news about that is they did not blame it on weather, and we got a free hotel room, and we got food vouchers, and we got things that you don't always get. So there was a silver lining.
Well, that's going to be our fight, because a couple of flights did get out from St. Louis. So all the families they were on a plane where our flights were canceled, they told us, well, it's because of weather, so you're on your own. But considering that other flights got out, that is the reason why you still call and you argue and you kind of work it from there. But so by the time this all plays out Monday, we end up sleeping in Monday. Initially, I was supposed to be on a 5 a.m. flight to Tampa that would then take me on a second leg with me and my older daughter to Atlanta. As it turns out, when we brought it up on the app, there was no second leg from Tampa to Atlanta. They never even put us on it. They had scheduled us to be on the 5 a.m. from St. Louis to Tampa with no connecting flight to Atlanta. So now we're having to go through this process again. And what we ended up doing is waiting around all day, sitting in the airport for 6 hours, and we finally got on the 7:40 flight, which ended up taking off at close to 9 o'clock
PM
on Monday. Finally landing, getting back to the Atlanta airport, and we walked in the door of our home at 1:30 a.m. on Tuesday morning. That was worse than 3 years ago in Orlando.
And my daughter went to practice Tuesday night, for the record.
And school.
And school, which she did not care for, but we made it happen. But yeah, our journey didn't end either. We were put on a 5 a.m. flight from Minneapolis that was delayed until 12:20. So we showed up at the airport at 10:30. As soon as we arrived, our flight was delayed until 1:30. And then about at 12:30, it was delayed until 3:30. And about at 3 o'clock, it was delayed until 4:30. And we finally took off at 4:45. However, I had received an email at 9 o'clock that morning saying my bags had just arrived at Atlanta, claim 3 at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we spent the night in an embassy suites with no clothes, no toothbrush, just us and our carry-ons. And we're stinky and gross and had not brushed our teeth the entire day in Minneapolis. And we arrived in Atlanta at 9 p.m. and then had to go hunt down our bags, which had been there since 9 o'clock in the morning. So fun stuff.
To tell you how the only way it could have been worse, I have authorization to tell this story. So I'm not going to say names, but it's a former teammate of ours, a libero, and one of the sweetest kids we have ever been around. She was on our flight coming back, that 7:40 flight that took off at 9 o'clock. And as we're coming in for the landing, we basically hear, "Does anyone have an extra bag?" This girl, as we landed, got sick and threw up on the plane.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
So if you want to know about going through this entire process and then into the Atlanta area, this sweet, sweet, nice girl, to end their portion of the trip, which, by the way, I talked to her mom who said they walked in the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. But yes, as they were landing, she threw up from not feeling well. So you could imagine after going everything that Alice and I talked about and then end it with, and then my kid threw up. Like that might take, like that's the gold medal. That posted a number. It's in the clubhouse and it looks like it's going to win.
We got a girl on our 11s team who didn't make it home until like 4 p.m. on Tuesday from Minneapolis. I mean, it was bad, y'all. It was really bad.
Yeah, and I know everyone who's been kind of chatting about it and talking about how, it's extra vacation days, and I know you had put it in some of the group chats to see. It's been enlightening to see how many other parents who went to a qualifier weekend in the Midwest and thought to themselves, hey, this might be fun, who got out of there with a medal or got out of there qualifying, and yet that was just like the introduction to the weekend. Everything that happened from the end of those tournaments until you finally walked in the door of your home, that was the adventure, or that was the horror.
And we didn't get the bid.
And
third place isn't enough in 11 national. Blah.
Third place finish, don't get a bid. Second place finish at Sunshine for those girls, no bid. So with that, that's going to do it for us. Like and subscribe. Hopefully you have your own stories you can add to this. Please feel free. You can always do that. And by the way, I also learned that butt load is a form of measurement.
Butt load?
Yes. I believe it's 126 gallons. Take us out.
So as my husband and daughter return to Minneapolis this weekend, I'm going to be sitting this one out. I would encourage anyone going to the second weekend of Northern Lights to bring a coat. Even if you don't think you need a coat because you're going to be in Skywalks, bring a freaking coat because you're waiting for Ubers. You're in the Skywalk, you're cold. It's just cold. Even if it says 50 degrees, it doesn't feel like 50 degrees. It's cold. There's snow everywhere. You're going to walk on ice. We ice skated in the street. Get ready.
Shorter's better sometimes.
Today is gonna be the day that we run out of cash. Watching every serve and kill, it's a total smash. By now you should have somehow realized what we've lost. Our free time's gone, it's all for volleyball at any cost. I tend to believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see. We've been volleyball, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. Backbeat, the word is on the street that we're broke again. Entrance fees for tournaments our girls already in. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but we're at the bar, drinking through the overwhelm. No life beyond this far. Don't believe that anybody feels the way we do about the nets and all the chaos we're stuck into. And all the roads we drive, all the states you see. We've been volleyball, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. And all the lights that lead us there are blinding. The hotel nights, the drinks, they keep us finding a way to cope with all this endless grind. Oh, we're trapped, no life outside. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see. We've been volleyball, oh, so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. Today was gonna be the day, but we're still here. Volleyball, oh volleyball. I don't believe that